Hello, this is the Vietnam Social News Update for September 25, 2025. Date of news coverage, September 25, 2025. Politics. Vietnam's political leadership is deep in preparatory mode for the upcoming 14th National Party Congress. Today, Party General Secretary To Lem chaired a working session with the standing members of subcommittees, focusing on finalizing the draft documents that will guide the party's 2026 to 2031 vision. Vietnam Plus. He emphasized that the Political Report and Action Program must convey a strong commitment to stability, inclusive growth, modern infrastructure, comprehensive security, and strategic flexibility in a turbulent global environment. Vietnam Plus. The tone of this session underscores the party's intent to anchor its legitimacy in delivering measurable performance and national cohesion. Also today, the first Congress of the National Assembly's party organization for the 2025 to 2030 term opened in Hanoi, with delegates drawn from across the country. Vietnam Plus. High-level figures, including past and present top officials, attended. The Congress aims to strengthen cohesion within the National Assembly, align legislative organs with party directives, and enhance accountability between deputies and constituents. Vietnam Plus. In a related development, Vietnam is preparing for a rare and symbolic diplomatic trip. Party chief To Lem is reported to plan a visit to North Korea in October, potentially meeting with Kim Jong-un. Reuters. If it takes place, this would be the first visit by a Vietnamese party leader in nearly 2 decades, signaling renewed engagement between two long-aligned but economically distant states. Reuters. Now, let's move to the economy. Vietnam faces a serious external shock. U.S. tariffs imposed earlier this year risk slashing Vietnamese exports to the U.S. by as much as $25 billion, or nearly 1/5 of current export volumes, according to UN estimates. Reuters +1. The impact is already visible. Footwear exports dropped 5.5% in August, and overall trade with the U.S. fell month on month. Reuters 2. Economists warn that GDP growth could be trimmed by as much as 5% under worst-case scenarios. Reuters. Vietnam's response is to diversify trade partnerships. Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh affirmed that Hanoi is doubling efforts to conclude free trade agreements, FTAs, with the Mercosur bloc in Latin America and the Gulf Cooperation Council by year's end. Reuters 2. Simultaneously, negotiations with the U.S. will continue, particularly focused on curbing transshipment risks and improving origin traceability in export supply chains. Reuters +1. Despite headwinds, Chinh expects Vietnam's exports to still grow by more than 12% this year, a target that rests heavily on success in new markets. Reuters. Beyond trade, Vietnam is also pushing infrastructure and connectivity as buffer strategies. In New York at the UN, President Luong Quoc called for more aggressive tech and green investment flows to lower-income nations, tying climate and economic resilience together. Vietnam Plus. Meanwhile, American firms reiterated faith in Vietnam's long-term growth during their meeting with the president, signaling readiness to expand investment even amid short-term turbulence. Vietnam Times. Next, in society and culture. Vietnam recently triumphed in the 2025 Intervision Song Contest, a cultural event backed by Russia as a counterpart to Eurovision. Vietnamese singer Duc Phuc won first place with a performance drawing on folktale elements. Reuters. +1. The victory carries symbolic weight. It highlights Vietnam's willingness to engage in alternative cultural platforms, even amid geopolitical overtones. Reuters. Back home, major social shifts are unfolding. The National Assembly's first party organization Congress signals a deeper push for governance reforms and state-society linkage. Vietnam Plus. Vietnam Plus. A constitutional and institutional overhaul is underway. In 2025, Vietnam has pursued a sweeping plan to merge administrative units, eliminate the district huyện level, and reduce local government layers to streamline administration. Wikipedia. The reform is controversial. Some observers argue it concentrates power and shrinks local voice, while proponents claim it will improve efficiency, reduce duplication, and respond more flexibly to local needs. Vietnam also continues to promote soft power through cultural diplomacy. At the UN Climate Action event, President Kung emphasized that climate solutions must be inclusive and tech-enabled, linking climate justice to job creation. Vietnam Plus. Vietnam Plus. In New York, he met with U.S. business leaders and Vietnamese diaspora representatives, praising their role in maintaining cultural identity abroad. Vietnamnews.vn. These moves are consistent with Hanoi's aim to project a dynamic Vietnam that is rooted in tradition but globally engaged. Finally, international relations. Vietnam is amplifying its engagement on multiple diplomatic fronts. During the UN General Assembly, Acting Foreign Minister Lê Hoài Trung held a series of bilateral meetings with foreign counterparts, reinforcing ongoing cooperation across development, climate, trade, and security sectors. VOV. Meanwhile, the president's working visit to the U.S. is being portrayed by Vietnam's foreign ministry as a success. Both multilateral and bilateral goals were met, and Vietnam's narrative of national resilience and sovereignty was elevated on the global stage. Vietnamnews.vn. On bilateral diplomacy, Oman and Vietnam held the fourth round of consultations in Muscat to expand cooperation in trade, investment, and cultural exchange. fm.gov.om. Pakistan and Vietnam are also preparing to sign a preferential trade agreement, PTA, in the near future, signaling Hanoi's push to deepen linkages beyond traditional markets. Modern diplomacy. And ahead of schedule, a top Cuban legislative figure is set to visit Vietnam in response to an invitation from the National Assembly chairman. Another instance of strengthening ties with long-standing partners. VOV. Finally, Vietnam is walking a tightrope with Russia. An Associated Press report revealed that profits from a Siberian oil joint venture are being used to quietly service Russian military procurement debts, outside traditional banking systems, part of an effort to sidestep sanctions risk. AP News. This scheme underscores Vietnam's balancing act, preserving strategic defense ties with Russia while avoiding direct confrontation with Western powers. Thank you for listening to the Vietnam Social News Update. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and see you again tomorrow. This news summary is based on publicly available reports and rewritten uniquely for Vietnam Social News.